Thank you, everyone, for attending this May 6th Board of Commissioners meeting. And let's start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a moment of silence and reflection. All right. And before we move on to the agenda, we'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate one of our fine staff members for 25 years of service. Jenna Gardner.
So we wanted to take the time to honor and recognize Gina's service. So Kelly ordered an outstanding, what do you call this, a crystal plaque thing?
It's a service award.
Yeah, service award.
So this is for 25 years of outstanding service and dedication to public safety for the Coos County Juvenile Department to Gina Gardner from May 2000 to 2025, 25 years.
Right on.
Gina, congratulations.
Gina does a fantastic job. Everybody I've talked to really recognizes her performance and her duties. So just thank you, Gina, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Gina, thank you so much.
It's beautiful, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
And with that, let's move on to item 3A, request approval of a subaward agreement. Mike.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Mike.
3A. So this is an agreement with Oregon Health Science University to provide us funding in the amount of $16,130 for our home visiting program.
We have a motion.
Mr. Chair, move to approve subaward agreement 1029202 with Oregon Health and Science University and authorize department head Mike Rowley to sign.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion approved. Item 3B, request approval of a letter of agreement with AFSCME. Who's helping? What, you can do this one, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is a letter of an agreement with ASME for a 10% stipend for Donna Nelms to run the safety committee at Coos Health and Wellness. We are going to add some additional focus and some like staff safety to her. She currently does this, but I think that additional will require a 10% stipend. And I've worked with Human Resources on this, and she kind of helped me put this together.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Have a motion.
I'll move to approve and sign letter of agreement with ASME Union for safety stipend pay effective May 1, 2025.
I will second that, and as a part of my second, I'll also comment that the Coos Health and Wellness funding mechanisms do not include the general fund. There's no relationship between Coos Health and Wellness budget and the county's general fund budget. So these kinds of additional expenses that Health and Wellness incurs are not a burden on the general fund. They have zero effect on the jail or the sheriff's operations or anything else out of the general fund, and they manage their own budget quite well. So thank you for that, Mike.
No.
And actually, this helps us fill a void created by a recent round of personnel cuts when we had to lay off our full-time public safety, or safety position.
Yeah.
So I thank you very much, Mike, for taking this on. Further discussion?
Yeah, I'll just comment the importance. ASME also covers our individuals who work in the mental health field here. And when we look at kind of the collapse of the state level mental health system, it's resulted in a little more danger in our local communities for mental health providers. So the safety aspect is very important that we keep up.
Okay. Further discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion is approved. 3C, request approval of contract. Pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. I hadn't looked ahead. Thanks, Bobby. Let's move then to the late agenda. Let me get to the right page. Item 5A, request approval of a contract with Bamboo HR and authorize Mike Riley to sign.
Yeah, so this is for a contract for HR software, kind of monitoring, tracking, automating software. As you know, we've added a human resource type person to our staff, and we realized that we don't do as good a job as Caroline does. And so we need to cut some time off of our preparation so that we can do more of what Caroline initially did or does, which is build a rapport and to kind of sell Coos Health and Wellness and be able to talk to our prospective staff when they come in. She does a great job, or did a great job at that for our facility, and I think we need to carve out some time for our staff to do that.
Thank you for that. We have a motion.
Mr. Chair, move to approve the contract with Bamboo HR and authorize Department Head Mike Rowley to sign.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Discussion.
No, sir.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion is approved. Now we go to item 3C.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I'll just comment that it's no surprise to me that Mr. Rowley and his crew have found that Caroline is a hard act to follow.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Caroline. Thank you, Mike. Okay, item 3C, request approval of contract amendment for the Laverne Water Park System. Morning, Craig.
Commissioners. Good morning.
Morning, Craig.
Yeah, we'd like for you to approve the contract amendment for 541 Water Incorporated in the amount of $19,365 to upgrade the water treatment system at Laverne and West Laverne Park.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the contract amendment with 541 Water, Inc. in the amount of $19,365 to upgrade the water treatment systems at Laverne and West Laverne Parks.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Does this make the water potable out there now?
Yes.
Drinkable?
Yes,
Okay.
drinkable.
Will that impact our state funding with regards to RV slots, that they pay us per slot? Or do we know offhand?
If we did not have potable water, yes, it would.
Okay, so once we get this, we get more money from the state?
Well, we'd get the same
Keep getting
amount.
the same amount.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't,
Okay,
we would
it
get
was a
less amount
breakage.
if we did
I
not
gotcha.
have it, yeah. Yes.
I would say that the water currently is potable or
Yeah.
potable.
Yes.
And the reason for these improvements are due to changing regulations. So
okay.
it's not that our system has
Failed
gotten
in
any
any way,
worse
yeah.
or failed. It's just that the standard has gotten a little bit higher. So we have to make
It's
these
always good to hear from county council that we're not serving up unpotable water at county parks.
Just want to be clear
Thank
that
you,
water
Mr.
counselor.
Gotcha.
I might explain that the reason for the change order is that the system is so old that the parts are no longer available. So we've had to understand, we get different parts than we had before. So, any further discussion? Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. What are you grinning about?
You don't even want to know.
Scaring people.
I think it
around
has something to
water.
do with old.
They still make parts for you, though, don't they? Got some
Yeah, I got a
artificial-
new shoulder. And we'll stop talking about parts at that. Let's move on to item 3E, request approval of a site agreement with the Teamsters. HR,
We got 3D,
3.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, I thought,
Oh,
yeah.
D got
3. Yeah, we
canceled,
pulled
okay.
3D.
All right.
Oh,
Good morning.
Good morning, Caroline.
So about a week and a half ago, we had a meeting with the Teamsters rep, the Teamsters steward, Paul Slater, and myself, and we came up with a site agreement to address how to handle after-hours call-outs. And so we all agreed that this was probably the best way to handle it, and we would like the board to approve this site agreement and regarding after-hours call-outs effective May 6th, today effectively.
Good. Do we have a motion?
move to approve and sign the side agreement between Roads and Teamsters Union 223 regarding after-hours call-outs effective May 6, 2025.
The second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion. Those in favor? Well, as you might guess, the roads work for 410s, but there's a lot of work that comes up in addition to their designated hours of work. And so having a good call-out system to get the help on the roads when we need it is important. And that hopefully will accomplish this.
Yeah, road washouts, trees down on the road, stop signs being taken down, those type of
Yeah.
issues.
Caroline, would it be possible for you to just give us a 15 or 30-second summary of kind of what is in here?
Of course. And so what we have come up with is a system whereby people who want to work overtime can put their name down on a monthly list. And then when there is emergencies that require people to go in to work after hours, we have one person who acts as the dispatcher who contacts the first person on the list. Some of those decisions are based on, the location of the call out, where it is and where the person lives, whether they have a vehicle that they have taken home with them for that reason, and whether they have the skill set needed to accomplish the job. But for the most part, they go down a list and they contact the person, and if they can agree to be there within 30 minutes, then they proceed. Sometimes they may need more than one person to respond to a call out, so that dispatcher will go down the list to the next person and try to get somebody to come out. So this just clarifies how that is handled, and then what happens to that person on the list after that, whether their name gets put back onto the lower end of the list, and then how they are paid for that.
Okay, thank you.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion approved. Thank you, Caroline. We'll move on to item 3G. 3F, now we go. Resolution making additional appropriation for animal control. Sheriff, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Sorry.
I'm pushing along here, didn't mean to try to skip over you.
I thought I was confused. Sat back there.
No, just me.
So just requesting additional appropriations. This is the animal shelter operator position that is not a position, but rather part-time, and appropriating funds that have been donated, not general fund money at all, so that we can keep her employed for now and help out the shelter. Unfortunately, they desperately need it. So just request the board to approve appropriations resolution 25-04-080B.
Thank you.
Mr.
Do we have a
Chair,
motion?
move to approve appropriation resolution 25-04-080B.
Have a motion and a second, and for everyone's information, the amount is $18,000 of donated funds. Discussion. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that motion is approved. Are you done?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Now we'll go to 3G, request approval of amendment number 1 to IGA 23496, authorized chair to sign. DA. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
How are you?
Excellent. How are you guys?
Good.
Very well.
Hi, Daniela. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is an amendment, number 1, to intergovernmental cooperative agreement, number 23496. And this is needed on October 1st, 2024. The Federal Office of Child Support Services replaced 8 provisions from 45 CFR Part 75 and adopted the provisions under 2 CFR 200. An amendment to the current agreement is needed to incorporate these updates for the Coos County DA office to utilize the provision changed by the transition to 2 CFR 200. It's just an amendment.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move to approval of amendment number 1 to intergovernmental cooperative agreement number 23496 and authorize chair to sign.
Second.
Have a motion and second discussion.
For the sake of public knowledge, how much child support is collected in this county?
We had almost $3 million collected for fiscal year October 1st of last year through September 30th. So for the federal fiscal year, yes.
I don't want to translate the CFR language there. So basically, this means we're going to be able to get some more money, charge a greater administrative fee. I think it's increasing from 10% to 15%. So we'll get a little bit more pursuant to this amendment.
Good.
Very good.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, I believe. Further discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion is approved. Thank you very much. And now we'll go on to 3H, request approval of a generative AI policy. Who's going to handle this?
I will.
Okay.
If you have any technical questions.
Well, Drew's muted again. Trying to find his text number.
Oh,
That was me. I turned it off because it was giving feedback.
so it does appear that times are changing and more employees are using AI. This was very interesting for me because I didn't use it and I didn't know anything about it, but it's been a great learning experience. So with IT, we decided to come up with an AI policy. Although I'm in the throes of finalizing the employee handbook, I didn't want to put this in the handbook because I feel that AI evolves quickly and I wanted it as a separate policy in case we need to amend it often. But it does appear that more and more employees are using it, and the AI usage policy kind of just sets out the parameters of what's allowed and what's not and what they should be looking for. But if you have any specifics, let's hear from Darius.
And so really my concern on this was that AI is a great tool. Ooh, I'm very loud. So AI is a great tool, but because there's a computer putting together the content for you, there's the opportunity to create some risks there. First and foremost, if you're using a public system, any data you put into the system becomes public information and can be used in other people's generations. So, for example, if we were to put in HIPAA information or CJIS information, that information now becomes publicly accessible. Another one is that depending on how much it's done, AI can introduce some biases, possibly racial biases or gender biases and stuff. And so the recommendation in here is that while you can use that, don't put any sensitive information into it. Always read it before you publish any of that content anywhere. And then it's always a good idea to note that AI was used to generate this content. So just simple things like that, so that people understand what potentially could go sideways on something like that, and be aware of that and use it appropriately. But it's a great tool. It's a good starter tool if you want to write something. It's a great way to get you going, get you to 75, 80% done, and then you can go back in and reread it and modify it. And the outcomes are really good with it if it's used properly.
Darius, did you use AI to write the AI policy? Honest
Yeah.
question.
So I would say the policy that I wrote like 6 months ago, I came back from a meeting kind of terrified that this was going to be a thing. I actually did use it to write the initial script. I submitted that to Caroline. I think she used a tiny bit of mine, but hers was even more eloquent than what AI created for me.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the Coos County Generative AI Usage Policy and to sign and date Resolution 2504072L effective May 6th, 2025.
Second.
Discussion.
Caroline, I have a question.
Yes.
You said that you wanted to hold this policy out separate from the employee handbook.
Yes.
So is there going to be then a reference to this separate document in the employee handbook? How's that tied together?
Yes, absolutely, I can do that.
Uh-huh, okay.
Yes.
So it's like you have to cross-reference with this other document to make sure you're in compliance.
Correct. I mean, typically I update the employee handbook every 4 to 5 years. I have a feeling that we'll be updating this AI policy more regularly than that. But yes,
okay.
I can absolutely have a reference to it. And it's not unusual for HR to have some separate policies that are not included in the employee handbook.
Yeah, good.
I would like to send it out to the staff and ask them, each and every one of them, to read it. And it's easier to do that as a separate policy than to go in and say, here's 25 pages, please read page 7. Yeah, so that was also part of the decision.
Is part of that process going to be a confirmation of, or an acknowledgement, initial and return or something like that?
Caroline and I discussed that. I don't know if a decision was made on that, and I think that's probably something we check with Colton on if he feels it's necessary. I think by referencing it in the policy and sending out an email to the staff and then making it something you mention in an onboarding process might be good enough, but Colton would know better.
And I'd be more than happy to put it on the HR webpage, and then we can also add it to the intranet so employees can access it or see it 24/7.
Okay.
Yeah, I think our obligation is to make them well aware of the policy, and I think what we're describing will do that. I think at that point the employee has clearly been put on notice of the policy change. So.
Okay, thank you.
I would be concerned about those employees that have access to HIPAA-type data. I think we ought to go the extra mile to make sure that they're aware of what they should or shouldn't do, specifically with people that have access to data that shouldn't be out there,
Yeah, and I
whether
would
it's
say.
HIPAA or otherwise.
Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't leave it to chance.
I would say that the other area is the criminal justice information at the sheriff's department is another one that's also pretty sensitive. We can talk to Mike and Gabe and see if they want to do an acknowledgement within their own departments, considering it's probably the most at-risk data. And don't know what your thoughts on that are.
Well, I have a thought on that, and that is that the individuals at Health and Wellness who are dealing with HIPAA information and the individuals at the sheriff's office who are dealing with criminal information are highly trained in the sensitivity of that data, and they're not going to put that in a compromised place. I think that just putting out this general policy this way just kind of ties it back to be sure you don't put anything private in AI. If you want to use AI that incorporates some private data, do it as generic and then put your private in on your post-generated your edit. I wouldn't be concerned about that.
I would say that there are occasional slip-ups, very occasional, right? Not just with our two departments, but other peer departments that go through the same type of training and certification. So I don't necessarily disagree with you, but there are times where there's either accidental exposures or... So it does happen.
That
from
was
time
more
to
in line
time.
with my
Yeah.
thinking. I'm confident that our people that have access to this very, very sensitive information know full well that that information is sensitive. What I'm worried that they may not know is that putting it out on AI is
Risky.
risky.
Yeah,
So
public
we need to
AI,
make sure
public
they know that.
The option is you can you can work with some of the AI providers to get a private space. Of course, there's contracts involved and there's usually dollars involved where the data that you put into there does not get shared with other. It's fully within yours. And so that could be something that, maybe Coos Health and Wellness wants to, if they want to use AI to analyze some of their claims and see if they can find trends or whatever. I'm kind of on board with what you're thinking, and I also kind of agree with, Rod, what you're saying, but that is an option that I can discuss with Mike if they want to either say, no, you can't do that, don't do it, or they can say, yeah, there's some value in that, and maybe what we'll do is get our own private AI space. That's an option too.
I appreciate your looking
For
into
the
that.
policy, a simple thing you could put in is do not put names in the AI, because then the data you're putting in is dissociated from the individual. So if it was Coos Health and Wellness, you say client. If it's the jail, you say inmate.
Yes. Or you can use initials and then
Or adult in
afterwards.
custody.
Yeah.
replace
Yeah, adult
those
in
initials
custody,
with
that's
a
a new
name.
one.
Yeah.
I will say that Coos Health and Wellness has a very robust HIPAA compliance
Yeah.
system in place. And any breaches of HIPAA do get sent to HR, and then they are noted, and then usually they have, that employee has to undergo further training.
Coos Health and Wellness takes HIPAA very
Oh, yeah.
seriously.
Again,
And
yeah.
names are just one of the potential 18 identifiers to get to someone's protected
Fair health
health
enough.
information. I mean, we want to be, yeah.
I
But-
mean,
go ahead.
the document that Caroline prepared states if you're, using a public tool, don't put sensitive information in it. But I can check with Mike if Mike feels there's a need to get some private space, if they want to allow staff to do. And they may not even see any real value in having AI go through some of, like, a group of claims and trying to find some trends or some, we should be enough here with what we wrote that just says don't put it in a
Cool.
public space.
As long as we know they read it.
Yeah,
And-
True.
All right.
make everyone sign it.
I think we've worked this one over enough. Any further
No, sir.
questions, concerns? Okay, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion approved. Item
Thank you.
3I.
Thanks, Darius.
Thanks, Darius. Request approval of a heat illness prevention plan, HR and safety.
All right, so just in time for summer, and in response to the new OSHA rules that came out, we have prepared the heat illness prevention plan. And this was a combination of written by me and then sending it to our safety coordinator, Michelle, and then we also had the safety committee weigh in on some changes. And then I had Shelley at SAFE take a look at it. I think we've come up with a plan that will work for everyone. And then after this has been approved, I would like to start implementing training in the month of May and June for heat illness awareness.
Very good.
Did you use AI to generate this?
I did not. I wish I had. It probably would have cut down on the time I spent on this.
Move to approve Coos County Heat Illness Prevention Plan and sign Resolution 25-03-047L effective May 1st, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hey, Powers, other than that, you're pretty safe in our county, I'd say.
It gets toasty.
Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion approved. Moving on to 3.
I do have a late lady.
Let's wait, let's go through all of this, and we'll come back.
Oh, it's a job description.
Item 3J, request approval of a proclamation regarding ICE detainer requests for adults already in custody on probable cause. And that would be Commissioner Taylor.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, in contravention of federal immigration law, Oregon's governor has declared that law enforcement in Oregon must not comply with federal ICE detainer requests for individuals already arrested on criminal charges not related to immigration. This is a matter that we brought up a couple of months ago, and it was voted down. Some of the reason that it was voted down was that some of the language in the proclamation was not clear, and as a result, there was a concern that it would put undue burden on the sheriff's office by public who don't understand what the limitations are that the sheriff's department is working under. So this is not a directive to the sheriff's department in any way, because first of all, the Board of Commissioners does not direct the sheriff's department. And secondly, even if we couldn't direct the sheriff to do something that's perceived as illegal according to state law. So all this is a proclamation that we as a Board of Commissioners believe that when an individual is detained on a probable cause basis for a crime, and they are held in the jail, and then Immigration and Customs Enforcement becomes aware of the presence of that individual, if they are in the country illegally, we believe that we should be free to honor a detainer request so that illegal alien can be detained and then removed from the country. Again, these are people who are already arrested on crimes that they've committed or perceived to committed, and this does not have anything to do with targeting individuals who have not committed crimes. Actually, it doesn't have anything to do with targeting individuals at all. It has merely to do with honoring the requests coming from a federal agency regarding immigration.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, move to agree and sign the proclamation regarding ICE detainers to codify the position held by Coos County Commissioners that individuals already incarcerated for other crimes should be additionally held for ICE when detainer requests are issued.
Do we have a second?
We already went down this road, and ICE has a way to do that right now. They just aren't getting it signed by a judge. They want to be lazy and special.
Again, do we have a second?
No.
I'm afraid the motion dies for lack of a second, Rod.
Hooray.
So let's move on then to the consent calendar.
Mr. Chair, move passage of the approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Thank you.
Second?
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion is approved.
Mr. Chair, move acceptance of a late agenda item
Could
for
you do-
approval of a job description.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second?
Motion is second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion passes. So let's look at this job description. I can explain what this is for. We recently went through some layoffs to balance our budget for the upcoming year. And we were able to combine one of the positions that was to be laid off with a position that was open in the road department, and where in the road department would pick up 10% of this staff member's salary, and the survey department would do the remaining 10%, thereby alleviating a significant load on the general fund, which is where we were short. So, and Caroline has drawn up a new job description for this position, and that's what we're talking about today. Can you want to comment further on it, Caroline?
Of course, thank you. And I apologize for this being a late, but I just put the job description together yesterday. It appears that rather than waiting until July 1st, we really need this person to take up the duties now in the road department and survey office as starting next week. So I'm requesting the board approve the job description for the road department, which incorporates survey office duties anticipated to be about 10%, and public works office assistant duties 90%, and place under the non-union pay grade of 783, and request transfer of the survey office manager position to the new position effective May 12th, 2025 at step 3.
So do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, move to approve roads office assistant job description and approve transfer of Tamara Smith to the road office assistant position under pay grade 783, step 3, effective May 12th, 2025.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Just that I appreciate the departments working together. It still accomplishes the cut from the general fund while still letting an employee keep their job. So this worked out well.
Agreed.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those in favor, please say aye. Try that again.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is approved. Thank you very, very much. That concludes our business. Commissioners' reports.
Who wants to go first?
You're up.
Oh, okay. So updates from me. I had a chance to tour the state hospital, the mental health state hospital. Just some updates there. I might have already given this update, but updates there. So they just lost their director. They're now under investigation from federal authorities because they had about 22 fatalities in about I think it was a 3-year window. Might have been a 5-year window. So kind of again demonstrating the issues we've got with the state's mental health system, that even when the capacity is so low that it's only about 700 beds right now, mentally ill only get there if they've committed a person-to-person crime. There is no preventative or proactive admittance to the state hospital to take care of people. And even at that low capacity, they either don't have the oversight or the staffing to ensure the safety of the patients. At this point during the tour, I was there with other commissioners, and we were informed that they're not even referring to the patients as patients anymore. They are referred to as inmates at the state hospital. They only have 700 beds. They're told they need an additional 3,000, and that's the way the state's mental health system is right now at their level. Our people do everything they can, and we often have point ahead of the state. I've been in meetings where they talk about this new program throughout the state where they're trying to get mobile response teams for the mentally ill. And it's just this new big thing to them. We've had one for years. Coos Health and Wellness is always ahead of the curve from the state, but we have problems with the state keeping up. And that's where a big problem is in the mental health system right now.
Commissioner, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just to support that, in 2023, last data I could find, we were 50th. Or
Yeah.
50th in the country. It is bad.
Yeah, I remember a report from Mental Health America at one point where we actually came in 51st because they included DC. So we came in lower than the total number of states in the country. It was impressive in the totally wrong way. Some updates on the Elliott. I got information now. I've been chasing this down for a while, trying to get more and more information. I've learned that through the Elliott's forestry plan, they're expecting, and I'm told this is an overestimation, but they're expecting to make $9 million a year on their timber cuts. The Elliott may have a harvest sale this year, so that's moving forward. They are doing research, but they are also doing timber cuts. And the feedback I got is that all of that money is scheduled to be reinvested in the facility and none of it will stay in the community. For context on Shutters Creek, because some folks don't know, when it closed, our community lost more than 100 jobs. It lost more than $6 million in payroll. And it was about $4 million in contracts with the community that facility provided. It was regarded as one of the better ones for the rehabilitation of clients. It had trade skills. I think they trained dogs for the blind up there for a while. It was doing what the state says it wants to see more of, but they closed it and put a $10 million hole in our local economy, essentially. So I've communicated with, there's a group called Regional Solutions. Every region in Oregon has a representative that is the governor's ears in our community. And I told them that we will have problems if they don't find a way to keep some of that money local and invest it in our folks locally. If they plan to take all of that money and give nothing to compensate for the hole they made, we have to look at what we as a county can do to push back on that, or what we as a community can do to push back on that. I've never been one to get terribly involved in protests, but if that's what needs to happen, I may call on folks to see who wants to step up and have some interference in that issue. On the 5% program I've been working on, I put out a message to all of the commissioners in the state. I did it through blind carbon copy, so we didn't break any public meeting laws. Colton. So far, I've gotten responses from 7 counties that are interested. There's 36 counties in Oregon. I've had responses from 7 counties that want to move forward, interact with this, or they've got questions, concerns, and plans. And we have an even spread right now, roughly. It's 7, so you're going to have an off number. But so far, we've got 3 Democratic counties and 4 Republican. So this appears to have become a bipartisan issue for the counties.
And their response? What?
Everyone's interested. Places like Clackamas have concerns about state retaliation over county funding. So we would have to have bigger conversations amongst these groups. It's good, though, that I'm getting some size here because Lane County expressed an interest, and they have a lot more horsepower than us. Definitely more state or staff capacities. And Teamsters Union 223. I got a hold of them. They're interested in supporting as well. That's who covers our local law enforcement. They have a lot of police departments, and they, of course, recognize that increases to the general funds of counties ensures that we can retain officers and hire officers. So it's in their best interest. It's in all of these counties' best interest, and it is moving forward now. And then just briefly, because I want to make sure it's understood, ICE does have the ability to hold people in our jail. All they have to do is get their warrant signed by a judge. It's what every other law enforcement agency in the country has to do to hold someone in a jail. They want to do it without judicial oversight. That's the problem. If they went with a judge, that's all it takes. So that's on them. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Taylor.
It's not always easy to get a judge to go along with something right when they are part of a corporate corrupt system. So, you know, when you have a governor who consistently appoints replacement judges before the end of a term so that the newly appointed judge can run as an incumbent against anyone who would challenge that seat, and therefore you end up with benches stacked with a bunch of ideologues of all of one persuasion, it's not exactly a fair playing field. But, you know, that is what it is. So not such great news regarding the Elliott State Forest. However, there is potential burgeoning good news regarding the O&C lands. And in a few weeks, I'll be meeting again with the Association of O&C Counties for an update on that. And we'll be discussing not only the harvest levels on the O&C lands and policy changes that would be taking place or taking effect there, but also talking about the efforts to reauthorize the SRS, the Secure Rural Schools Program, which was a program that Congress implemented a number of years ago to sort of backfill some of the shortfall from the lack of O&C harvest. Although SRS was always a very, I would say, very lame effort in that regard. It made up only a small percentage of what we actually used to receive from O&C revenues. So anyway, looking forward to being able to share some good, encouraging information from that. And let's see, that's about all that I have that I want to talk about today. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I believe at one of our recent Board of Commissioners meeting, we talked about the county's urban renewal district on the North Spit. It was a district that the county formed some years back. It was managed by the port under a board that consisted of 2 county commissioners, 2 people from the port, City of Coos Bay, City of North Bend, and someone at large. They hadn't been using the money for anything. They were simply accumulating money in their bank account, weren't doing any projects. We kind of had the notion that if they weren't going to do anything with the money, that we ought to give it back to the taxing districts that would otherwise be getting it. And so we made that proposal, and it was met, of course, by the Urban Renewal Agency Board that that wasn't a good idea. And so we challenged them with coming up with a project that would make it a good idea. And they had some that were not really good ideas, at least in my view. And but they had one that we all bought into, and that was that the highway, or the Trans-Pacific Parkway, I guess they call it, has been built some 25, 30 years ago, I believe. And although it was built to a high standard and it looks good, it is beginning to come apart, and it needs a major overhaul. And the estimated cost for that has come up to some range anywhere between $3 and $5 million, a few even more than that. That is a county road. So we kind of changed our tune. We thought, well, that would be a good use for that money to rebuild that road. Then our county roads department can use the money they do get to do other roads in the county. And on top of that, we would get some money for managing the projects. So in the end, we're moving ahead with the URA, continuing it. We may reassess that later on, but right now it's still an active agency, and I think it will work to our benefits. Budget's been so much on our minds. Stop me if I've explained where we ended up on the budget before the Board of Commissioners. If I don't get stopped, I'll try to give you a brief explanation. We ended up with a $1,800,000 budget deficit. Obviously, we can't operate at a deficit, so we took steps to balance the budget. And to simplify it, it ended up, we balanced it by doing 3 things. both our Parks Department and our Solid Waste Department have been putting money aside for big projects that they need to have done. And they've accomplished that. They've saved enough money that they're able to finish the projects. And so going forward, it appears that they will have a surplus between the two that is close to $600,000 a year. And so we think that is quite sustainable. So we contributed those revenue sources to the general fund, and that took care of 1/3 of the deficit. We found some one-time money that we had. An example would be interest on American Rescue Plan funds that hadn't been spent yet, and we get to keep the interest. So we applied that to the deficit, and in total, we found another approximately $600,000 of that type of one-time money that we had available. That kind of meant that we'll have the same problem next year. And then the third leg was to eliminate $600,000 in costs. We went through each department's budget looking at non-personnel line items, almost line item by line item. I'm very pleased to report that each department their budgets were very, very tight. So we didn't find any money there. So we ended up having to take it out of personnel, and to save $600,000, we needed to cut about 6 positions. And we identified 6, and we found that one of those 6 was not a good idea. But the other 5, 2 people had to be let go, and the other 3 we found other jobs for them in the county. And they're good employees, and so it will work. We merged juvenile into community corrections. Counties often do that. That saved a position. Kind of essentially moved survey down to roads. They're not merged into roads, but they'll be sharing an office with roads, and they can share an office person. So, and as we indicated earlier, roads will pick up 90% of that person's compensation, saving the general fund that much money. We still have to decide, and I think tomorrow we'll do that, where to find another $100,000. So that's kind of the budget and the layoffs. And then I want to go back to what Commissioner Farmer was talking about, and essentially the need for new sources of revenues for local governments, especially counties. Measures 5 and 50 limited the growth of property tax dollars. And they did that by not allowing the value of your property on which taxes are charged to be restricted to an increase of 3% a year or less. And there are certain things that trigger what that will be. Measures 5 and 50 have been in effect for about 30 years. And in that period of time, if you go across the state, you will find that the market value of lands have increased much, much faster than the 3% restriction on the growth of the taxable value. they have increased more in accord with inflation than with some artificially restricted number. So right now, you used to pay property taxes on the market value of your property. Now you're paying them on something around 50% of the value of your property. If you look forward, in our county, we're paying. There's a 40% gap between market and the value in which taxes are calculated. In another 30 years, one would expect that to drop another 40%, so that we're trying to support local government with taxable values of property that are like 20% of the market value. And we're struggling right now when we're in the 50-60% range. So I'm probably getting everyone confused, but the point is that property taxes, given measures 5 and 50, which I don't see can ever be retracted, will not support funding of local governments. So we've got to find a new source. And one of the new sources that Commissioner Farmer has suggested would be a statewide sales tax, I believe, but dedicated.
No.
Pardon me?
No.
Oh, not.
No, it would require the state to return 5% of income tax back to the county of origin.
Okay, so yours is just income tax based.
Yeah, it doesn't increase anybody's taxes. It requires the state to return some of the tax
okay.
back to where they got it from.
I'm sorry, I've jumped ahead of you.
That's okay.
But that's a good idea. And another idea will be to have some kind of a sales tax to help fund local government. And the advantage of that, of course, is that we get to share some of the burden of running our government with citizens from states who we help when we go to their states, help fund their local governments. So that's all the confusion I have to report. So, citizen comments. Do we have the list? Phil, good to see you here. You had a question mark. Is that because of you didn't know whether you were going to talk or some other question?
Well, I like to listen to what you guys say, then I got a choice on what I want to comment on. Phil Thompson, Coos Bay. Good
morning.
Afternoon or morning, whatever it is to you guys. I want to thank the commissioners on not seconding that number J on the agenda, and I want to say why. It's not self-explanatory the way he's got it wrote or the way he explained it. You know that old saying about once the camel gets its head in the tent door, pretty soon he's got his whole butt in there. And that's exactly when you start giving ICE this much, pretty soon they want that much. And if you really look back through the history, just say 1860 to 1960, the black person, you know, they were brought here by force. They didn't have any rights at all. Even the Supreme Court said they didn't in 1857. They were chattel. And you're working that way right now. People don't like to look at it. That's what's happening in this country right now. It took those black people from 1860, with 600, I think, 1,000 people killed in the Civil War, to 1960 to drink from the same fountain as a white person. And now we're picking out, the administration we got now is picking out certain people, you know, that shouldn't be in this country. I guess the white pool genetic pool is getting more brown, and a lot of people don't like that. And I'm saying what I think. It's my opinion. We got to change the way we're doing. Nobody disagrees that we got to have a border to be a sovereign country. But look at all, and I'm going to use my terms, not derogatory. The Mexicans, we've used them for all the years I can remember for low wages and everything else. Even some of our senators and stuff had them as gardeners and housemaids and all this other stuff. But we don't have to lock everybody up and use the Army to guard our borders. You know, that E-Verify would have settled everything, but neither the Republicans nor the Democrats wanted to have something that they could actually see who was here because they wanted to use them. And it's going to always be this way. Anyway, that's my feelings that we shouldn't do nothing to help ICE put more burden on the underclass, the people that can't fend for themselves anymore. Anyway, I say don't do it. And I thank you for not seconding that motion. Thank you, Phil Thompson.
Thank you, Phil. Dave Jennings, up. I'm going to say it. I don't allow boos, and I don't allow yays. So keep your feelings to yourself. This is for people to be able to come up here and say what they want to say without other people commenting.
You hear that, David? No booze, so don't be drinking at that podium.
Okay, I won't do that.
All right.
People want to clap for me, I'd like that, but they shouldn't do it. I get that message. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is David Jennings, as I believe you may recall. You know, we're hearing a lot now about ICE detainers, and we haven't quite heard so much about it, but for years we heard about issues surrounding mail voting, especially in this state. And one of the things that's always bothered me about these intrusions of national or sometimes state issues here is that on the whole, I found most people here are pretty reasonable and often can find common ground on local issues because we tend to know this community, but we get into sometimes very intense and sometimes rather bitter arguments about things at the national and the state level. And it'd be nice to be able to not focus on those issues and more on the local. I don't know if people are willing to do this, but one of the things that strikes me is that, you know, the sanctuary status of the state of Oregon was passed in the legislature in the 1980s by an overwhelming majority. And then people seem to have forgotten in 2018, people that didn't like this policy put it on the ballot to repeal it. And the net result was a no vote of over 63%. And even in Coos County, where I realize people might have a difference of opinion because they often do, than the rest of the state, the no vote was 51.05%, which is considerably closer. But even then, the people of the county affirmed the sanctuary status of the state as being acceptable to them. Mail voting was approved by the voters. I forgot what the margin was, but it was in the high 60s or maybe even as high as 70%. So if people are not happy with these things, then I think they need to go out and try to just change the law. And I'm assuming probably the practical way to do that would be through an initiative petition of some kind. But instead what we do is we keep getting into these endless arguments about should we be a sanctuary state, should we vote by mail? I happen to think we should be a sanctuary state, and I like voting by mail. And I think that's probably what the majority of the states wants. But if people disagree with that, then I think they need to do something effective to put an end to it, and there is a mechanism in the state to do so, should you choose to do so. I can't help but also mention that these ICE detainers, has been said before, but I think needs to be underlined, are simply some federal employee writing something down and saying, hold this person for me. I don't think that really grants due process of law. The Washington Post back, I think it was on the 2nd of May,
reported that over a dozen people have already, during the latest crackdown on immigration, been placed in lockup facilities or deported when they are American citizens. I think that ICE has clearly shown that they don't have adequate respect for due process of law. And I think certainly it would not be unreasonable to expect them to create some federal judge positions to sign these things. And despite the fact that certainly judges are fallible, I have a good deal more trust in them than I do in just an anonymous employee that could put something on paper and say, hold this person for me. And it can be for up to 48 hours. I don't think that provides adequate due process to law, and I'm against it. But again, to get back to the larger question, if people have problems with these laws, I think they need to take effective steps to do something to change them. And certainly in Oregon, you could do that by putting something on the ballot and convincing the citizens of the state to change it. I also think there should be perhaps more respect for some of these things, because I often hear this described as something that either Democrats in the legislature or the governor or both do. And in reality, these are measures that actually the people of the state of Oregon, as well as their government, has them enacted. And I'm not saying you bow down before that and say they obviously are therefore infallible, but I think that people ought to have a little bit more respect for that and a little less respect for a federal agency that can't get warrants signed by a judge in this matter. But those are my thoughts. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, David.
Oh, Rob, I did want to say, Rob, I do have to admire you. You're very consistent and passionate about the agenda issues you pursue. And even though I disagree with you at times pretty vehemently, I do have to respect that you're a person motivated by values that you're willing to act upon. And I think that's always admirable.
Takes one to know one, David.
Okay, thank you.
It's worth knowing that the warrants would be signed by a federal judge. It's not a state warrant already.
Okay, Abigail. Good morning.
Abigail Bach-Couspe. This is perhaps otiose, but I wanted to enter some facts into the record. Although the proposed proclamation regarding ICE detainer requests went down, and I broadly agree with the comments Commissioner Farmer made, I think there are some details that it would be useful to have in the record. The text of the proclamation includes some broad generalizations unsupported by evidence, such as that we face disproportionate challenges due to crimes committed by individuals who are in the country illegally. It would be really nice to see some statistics that either support or refute that. I'd love to get those from the Sheriff's Department if they have them. And it also contains a crucial error that, to my mind, undermines its entire basis. It says the state of Oregon has adopted policies that designate it as a sanctuary for illegal aliens. Executive orders are policies. Laws passed by the legislature are laws. In Oregon, the sanctuary status, it was passed by the legislature in 1987 and reinforced in 2021. And as state sworn officers, sheriffs must enforce the law. There's a 2014 case from Columbia County that is relevant to this issue. A defendant was held in response to an ICE detainer request. That defendant sued the county, and in that lawsuit, ICE refused to support the county. The reason detainer requests are not honored in Oregon is that they are generally not signed by a magistrate, as has been discussed, and unless they are, the detention is illegal. After the 2014 case, the Oregon District Attorney ruled that detention requests not signed by a magistrate must be ignored. So if Coos County were to overrule the district attorney's position, they would be exposing the county to enormous costs in potential lawsuits. Former Coos County Sheriff Craig Zanni spoke to the world on this subject in 2017. He said, "We don't want to get sued and have citizens pay money for us violating their own law. We cooperate with ICE when we receive a detainer request signed by a magistrate, but not otherwise. We simply can't hold someone without lawful authority to do so, and it's just that simple. We aren't a sanctuary county or state because someone declared it. We are by default because we're following the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. James Bennett. Welcome back to Coos County.
Good morning, Jim Bennett, Bandon. Well, I'm excited to be getting our country back. And, you know, we can't use common sense or an assumption of goodwill or anything we were taught in civic class to understand how we got here. You know, we've been at war, and it's like a fifth generation brand of unusual warfare. And the spectrum of injury and damage is very, very wide. And, you know, we've been the subject of all kinds of societal sabotage. And, you know, like I say, all, and I mean all of the overreach and the sabotage to our well-being that we see on a local level is all UN Agenda 21 Sustainable Development, turned Agenda 2030, done through the National Policy Consensus Center. It's all unconstitutional. I've gone over that. But, you know, the exciting thing is that it's being defunded. I mean, the foreign aid and the US aid and the UN money and everything is being defunded, initially 75%. I mean, I had a bumper sticker like that 20 years ago, defunding the UN. I'm just so excited to see, you know, what's happening, and it's just getting started. And like I was saying last year, you know, there's thousands of unsealed indictments that have yet to be executed. This can be confirmed through pacer.gov, and our county council could confirm that, but you have to get a password, but I think most any of us can get it. I mean, in most years, there's 1,000, maybe 2,500. The last few years here, there's been tens of thousands and more being added all the time. And don't forget, each indictment can include 99 people. So all I'm getting at is the tentacles of justice are going to reach our communities, and we've been demoralized in every way that you can be. And this is going to be the part where we get remoralized, and there's going to be a lot of justice. And I just, I support everybody in the county to not allow these unelected, hijacked agencies and the alphabet mafia and all these warm and fuzzy sounding NGOs that have been weaponized. The most benign sounding groups are weaponized in their the globalist model, and go back to the framework the way it's supposed to be, because as we're all going to see shortly, there's going to be a lot of justice coming, and I think it's going to be good for the people to see that. So I'm real excited, and everybody's going to come together. We're going to have a lot of reason to, and we're all going to realize that we've been deceived, and I think it's going to be really, really good. So anyway, thanks for all your efforts, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jim.
Susan Foreman.
I wanted to speak in opposition to the proclamation, and I find that the people that spoke ahead of me, I appreciate what they said, and I appreciate the counselors for.
So you don't wish to.
I'm refraining from.
Okay, thank you. And I can't read the next name, but
Well, they win this round. Jim?
is it Jim Marsh? Anyone signed up besides Pam Fraser who hasn't talked?
So it's my turn?
Well, I don't know. What's your name?
Pam
Might as well.
Fraser.
Pardon me?
Pam Fraser.
Oh, okay, Pam, yeah.
But I'm
Yeah, it's your
happy to
turn.
defer if
The
it's
other
not
one,
my
other
turn.
one must not be, I didn't know whether you were the one whose name I couldn't read.
Some
or-
folks did step out.
No, there was the Browns. Okay, Pam, go ahead. Your
Right,
turn.
thanks. So I moved to Coos County a decade ago for a job at the local public defender office, where I was for 6.5 years before going solo And since then, I've continued to represent people accused of crime in the local circuit court, although it's not as big of a part of my caseload now. What that means is I have a lot of experience dealing directly with inmates in the Coos County Jail. For 6.5 years, I was in the jail consulting directly with my clients in the jail on sometimes a daily basis, sometimes more than once in a day. So I wanted to comment about a particular portion of the proposed ICE proclamation, which alleges that undocumented immigrants have a, quote, significant impact on local law enforcement, local jail, and the safety of our residents. I can tell you that the statistical representation of undocumented immigrants in the Coos County Jail is, in fact, not significant. On any given day, the Coos County Jail is likely to have no immigrants in it at all. All right, and these are the people who are accused of or have committed crime in the local county and have landed themselves in the local jail as a result. Off the top of my head, when I was preparing this statement, I could think of one time I had an in-custody client who needed a Spanish interpreter. Now, it probably happened more than once over 6.5 years, but my point is it was significantly unusual for that to happen. The truth is the population of our local jail mostly reflects the demographics of the local community, which is overwhelmingly white. I checked the jail roster again today, and it's the same today as it was back then when I was there. And I recognize some of the names on the list because I've represented them before. Immigrants are just not having a significant impact on local law enforcement resources or public safety. Isolated examples don't add up to significant impact. Our local public policy needs to be founded on factually accurate premises, not just fashionable rhetoric. Aggressive demonization of immigrants may be the fashion of the day, but we can't allow ourselves to be swept along with the hysteria. Now, as far as judges, federal judges are appointed by the President of the United States, and immigration court judges are US DOJ employees. So the idea that ICE can't get a judicial warrant because of Governor Kotek is just, that doesn't make any sense. So thank you all for voting down this measure again. I wanted to offer my insight because it seems to be coming up repeatedly. We need to make sure that local public policy is based on factually accurate local information. Thank you all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to provide public comment? Anything more?
No.
Commissioners?
Nope.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Turn this thing off. Okay.